All right. Whoop, 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 whoop. We are at show 105. That's right, people. We've made it 105 shows. Here we go. Something's gonna happen and it could be good. Something's gonna happen and it could be good. Something's gonna happen and it could be good. Something's gonna happen like we knew it would. Haven't heard a word out of that dog until we go live. We knew something was gonna happen. Good dog. Oh, things will change and leaves will fall and it will rain. Transform before your eyes with no time for chasing. Why? Oh, you never know just how life is gonna go. So you jump in your boat and row, row, row. Jump in your boat and row, row, row. Here we go. Ready? Sing it in the audience. Something's gonna happen and it could be good. Something's gonna happen and it could be good. Something's gonna happen and it could be good. Something's gonna happen like we could be good. You gotta aim high and go for your pie in the sky. Go ahead and trust yourself, 'cause everything will right itself. Life's a stream, so go ahead and follow your dream. Jump in your boat and row, row, row. Jump in your boat and row, row, row. All together now, ready? Something's gonna happen and it could be good. Something's gonna happen and it could be good. Something's gonna happen and it could be good. Something's gonna happen like we knew it would. All right. I am in this lovely house in Vermont. Let's show them out the window there.
Okay.
This is fall in Vermont. We're in a house called the Lanai up in Newfane, Vermont. Do you know what mountain that is by chance? I don't know what mountain.
No, it's kind of a ridge, I think.
With the random, Newfane, Vermont, with a
Hog's
random.
Back Ridge, I think it was.
What did you say?
Hog's Back Ridge, isn't that what
Hog's
that's
Back
called
Ridge.
over there?
Why not? Sounds good. Hog's Back, we'll take it. So here we are in Vermont, in Newfane, and we're going to start off this show with this house belongs to a family, and McKee, a member by marriage in this family who's hosting us, will come slide through. Why not? We didn't even think about the access and egress. Thank you for having us here in your lovely home. How long have you been coming here?
Since the early 90s, actually, by virtue of my my marriage to Libby Reed.
Well, you married well.
Whose father owns the house, and her brother is here today
Yes,
as well.
yes. And the reason, well, I know that you do read poetries a bit. You, not as a living. As a living, you're what, a software engineer, or an engineer?
An engineer, yes.
Here, this is what an engineer looks like here. And you don't live in Vermont. Where do you live, actually?
Andover, Massachusetts.
Lives in Massachusetts. Would you read a poem for us?
Yes.
That's what we're wanting from you.
So I'll
Read me a poem. A poem.
start off the show with a poem, and then many other topics will
follow. Topics will ensue.
So this is by a poet who loved Vermont, Robert Frost, and short, and perhaps a little dark, but there's a positive part to it. So it's Fire and Ice by Robert Frost. Some say the world will end in fire, some say in ice. From what I've tasted of desire, I hold with those who favor fire. But if it had to perish twice, I think I know enough of hate to say that for destruction, ice is also great and would suffice. So I chose that because it's a little bit whimsical and because it's thankfully short, but it's also I think it's also a bit of an indication of some of the with all the geopolitical upheavals going on and all the talk of dark times that could happen, to me, I think it's good to look at it sort of philosophically, but also to use that as a prompt for us to enjoy our surroundings and our neighbors and our opportunities for besides doing the needful, doing what keeps us healthy and happy. So that's.
Are you happy?
So far, so good.
Well, I'm pleased that you can actually say that, because sometimes I ask people if they're happy and they're like, oh, you know, I'm like, well, good God, you don't even know you're happy. But I'm delighted that you're happy.
It's a serious question, but yeah.
And I thank you so much for inviting us into your home and for reading that poem. Is there anything else you care to say to the world before you?
No, let's get on with it.
Let's get on with it. All right.
Lots to cover.
Yes, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Slip away to the background.
I feel. Yes, do. Off you go, trundle away. It's nice to have a little poetry from time to time. I think it civilizes us all.
I agree, yeah. It's fun.
Yes. All right, we're going to continue with John. John, to the stage, please.
All right.
You come by this house not through marriage, but by birth.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah. Let me see. I guess my great aunt Emily was one of the people who lived here, and she was a librarian. At one point, she was the head librarian for the state of Alabama.
Ooh, the head librarian of the state of Alabama.
Yeah, I don't know if they used a rail to run her out of the state with or whatever, but they didn't. I don't know. A politician there decided he didn't like her very much, or it made a good. Unfortunately, politics. Somebody says, "Oh, okay. If I split people up into this group and that group, there's a few more on that side, and I'll get them to hate each other. And, then I'll ride that to victory. And, which is the wrong way to deal with people and community, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
But
so your aunt was a head librarian in
and
Alabama.
she put this book. Yeah.
And this was the offending book.
Yes. Can you guess why? The rabbit's wedding, and one of these rabbits has black fur, same on the inside, the other one has white fur.
And your great aunt thought that this was a suitable book for a library.
Well, it's basically about, rabbits.
Rabbit love. And
it's a nice book, and it was popular with kids, and it's a good story. And I won't read it because it's.
We don't need to read
we
it.
can have a few of the illustrations. And it was popular, and nobody really minded at all. It was about rabbits. But then, you could. Okay, well, is it a metaphor? I don't know. Maybe she intended it that way, maybe not. I never
Probably
actually.
Well,
we're
banning books. We're banning books now that at
Yeah.
one point were considered okay until somebody decided they
Right,
weren't.
so
And maybe they're not all right. Maybe there is something wrong with this book that I'm not
But
aware
it's
of.
basically they make no reference to any kind of race or anything like that.
No, it's just that they like each other. They love these rabbits and they want to be together forever.
There you go. Garth Willams wrote the book and did the illustrations. But it was interesting because they somebody made a play about it while she was still alive. Wrote a play about her story.
Oh, how interesting!
Because she, had worked as a librarian, done various different things, and in the state of Alabama, which I don't know how she ended up there, but that's where she was, and maybe because it was warm. I don't know.
Yeah, warmer than here.
Anyway, she liked good quality books. Yeah, I mean, I knew her pretty well. I was, when I was a kid, and she always seemed set in her ways, to put it politely, and but I still liked her, and she liked me for some reason. So that was good. She gave me books all the time. And I like books a lot.
So somebody made a play about her in the book and
life.
her, and she was fired from her job, or just let go, or
I don't know if her job was eliminated and then recreated with somebody else in it, or what. There's various ways of doing it, but basically, she was politely asked to leave, or perhaps it was impolite. I don't know.
Yes.
And don't let the door hit you in the butt on the way out. Kind of. And then she moved to Baltimore, where there were a lot of librarians, that she.
And then how'd she end up here?
Her great aunt,
Oh,
Winnie.
Great Aunt Winnie.
Yes, built this house
Oh.
in the 30s, I guess. I don't know. And she was part of a whole bunch of academics. She was in the, what is that?
Yeah, so this is
In
copyright
Delaware.
1958, is that, yeah, copyright 1958,
Yeah,
and it
you're
was
on
not
the
all
phone,
right
so,
too. Yes,
yeah, it
it's
was
those
not all
spotty
right.
glasses I
Yeah,
wear.
well, sir, yeah.
Yes,
I should have
Yeah.
cleaned these before.
all right, so then her
But
great
anyway,
aunt, her aunt lived here.
Her aunt, Winnie, was here, and she was an academic specialist in ferns. There was also a bunch of, she established the Women's College of the, I should remember this, University of Delaware.
Yeah, so
something
she
like
had
that.
come up here and started.
Anyway,
was-
and she, you know, was a big person in the women's movement from 1900 through the 20s, and there was a bunch of people who were also active, who were also, you know,
in these hills.
friends with each other, and a number of them congregated on this hill, which I guess had some sort of Newfane Hill, is where we are. Had kind of a reputation locally. It's like, oh, that's where the, you know,
The witchy women are.
yeah, pretty
Okay.
much. You know, not all women, but a lot of them were women.
Yes.
And anyway, so Winnie built this house, and she passed it along. You know, there was a series of strong, independent women in the family, and she passed it along to maybe somebody else first, but it came to Emily, because she was definitely in that category. And then my dad came. She fell down once in the winter and took
Yeah.
her.
Then your
a
dad.
couple days, said,
What?
"Get up," and he came up. helped
Yes,
take
so
care
then
of
he
her.
moved here.
He
and
moved
she
here.
went off and did.
She moved back
And
to
all
Baltimore.
this time, you're living in California.
Not
Or
the
what?
whole time.
Not the whole
but
time,
Yeah,
yes.
not the
You
whole
were-
time, but
you
yeah, I was
were
moving around, but I've lived in California.
Making
before.
your adult life in California.
Mhm.
And you lived at, what town are you?
I live still in Fairfax, California.
Fairfax,
I've lived there
California.
since 91, I
Yeah,
guess.
so 10 or 15 years you lived there, and then you decided to run for public office.
Yeah, well, that's a longer story. I like community. I like
Yes.
bringing people together, and you know, I've got a, you know, I care about political stuff that pulls people together. So, you know, I'm a bicycle advocate. Have been. I was a bike messenger.
So was the
when I was in my
bicycle
youth.
advocacy that drew you to run for office?
In a roundabout way, I guess. You know, I'd write letters to the paper, and then if somebody said, "Oh, if you do this particular thing, it'll help," I would do that particular thing. And then, and then one time, a mutual friend of somebody else. Anyway, she said, "Oh, you know, you want bicycle advocacy? That you should know Deb Hubsmith, who's just moved into town. I guess she was from New Jersey or something like that. Anyway, had a accident in a car and decided on her hospital bed, which took a long recovery, that she wasn't going to get in a car again, and she was going to be an advocate for bicycling. And her last name was Hubsmith, which is appropriate for somebody who really cobbled together some pretty interesting.
But she wasn't on city council.
Not at all.
Okay,
Not at all.
so
She
I'm
was,
trying to figure out how you got onto the city.
Okay,
whatever,
well,
you had to
she
run
said-
for an election.
She said the town of Fairfax has no way to get any grants for, you know, from the state for bicycle or pedestrian infrastructure. And so we, you know, because the state didn't have any basic information on file. You know, it was a bureaucratic problem. And nobody had done this for decades. And even though it was a requirement, so she and I got together and we found out got a letter from the state, what are the things that you need, and it turned out to be 11 different categories, and so we made a document, had 11 sections. Those are all the information that they need, and some was just population
okay.
and maps
Carry
and
on.
stuff like that. So, you know, it took about a month to put together this document. It took 11 months to get it through the bureaucracy of a pretty small town. So
How
I
many
learned a
people in
little
your
bit.
town?
7,400,
Okay.
something like that. So not huge, but
Mhm.
not teeny. Anyway, so 11 months versus 1 to write this,
Mm-hmm.
you know, 35-page thing, and So I was like, that's interesting. You know, there's a lot of levels to this little town, and then you get to the state and it's something else again. But I learned something about it and got it passed. And then on the back of that, Deb said, well, now we can start this thing called Safe Routes to Schools, which is basically congestion management, which every town has got city has got to deal with. You know, it's like, how do you build a street wide enough for all the cars using it? And in California, they eliminated the school buses because they were saving money. So as a result, you get 27% of all traffic was people driving their kids to school, because it was unsafe to ride your bike to school or walk because there's too many cars. Chicken and egg thing. And so I worked together with her to start Safe Routes to School in Fairfax. You know, as a way to kind of teach kids a safe way to cross the street.
Right, so how did you get on city council?
Well, you know, you learn, that's part of it, is doing something positive for the community that people like.
Right, and then, so then people sort of knew who you were, because you'd been...
Yeah, through that, and I also worked a lot, there's a lot of trail, like, it's a steep street, you know, the streets go back and forth up the hills, and there's a bunch of pedestrian rights-of-way that go up and down that were kind of overgrown. And so I let people know about them because, you know, wildfire, that's useful to get out that way. In the Oakland fire, a lot of people had their lives saved because they got to walk down the hill instead of getting trapped in their vehicle. And so I heard that and I thought, oh great, you know, I went to the Fairfax Volunteers, which was a nonprofit organization, and said, hey, do you want to do this? And they said, yeah, that sounds good. And so I joined them, and they had a project which was burning people out, and as soon as that project was over, the burned out people left, and more people came in. And so, you know, we adopted some of the Safe Routes to School stuff, and also these trails, and we started town picnics and stuff like that. Did a lot of things for the community.
And so how did we end up on city council?
And then a lot of people said, you know, you'd be good. Won't you jump into that? And I'm like, who would want that job? You know, you're dealing, you know.
That's why you're good.
And so I had another friend working with another nonprofit called Sustainable Fairfax, which is basically how to do good things to, you know, raise chickens and put up solar panels. She and I decided, well, if you do it, I'll do it, and we'll knock out the jerks.
Oh, so that was like a total takeover of the town.
Well, I wouldn't call it a conspiracy, but maybe it was. But we decided, okay, you know, if we'll do it together, then we'll have friends
Two
there.
people on
At least. And there were some good people on the council, and there were some bad people on the council. And
so was it an ugly fight for you to win? Did you have to...
It wasn't that hard. We basically just said
we're
what
running.
We felt we were running, and people kind of knew us both.
Yeah.
And, you know, people knew them too.
Yes. People
preferred people who were friendly and tried to bring people together, as opposed to people who tried to pit people against each other, which is a positive thing.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty good town that way.
Yeah.
Though
I wonder,
it's not without its issues. But
I'm wondering if most towns are that way, because the idea of, like, when somebody suggested it to you, you're like, I'm not running for council. I wouldn't run for council.
Yeah.
Who wants to run for council? And so I wonder if many towns, if there are not lots of people that would like a better choice for city council. And so if you have any inclination that you can help your town, why not run for city council? I guess.
Well, yeah, I'd like to encourage people. Here, people, I'll look at the camera.
Yes,
yes,
yes.
No, I very much encourage it, because, you know, it's good to have something that you want to accomplish, and you won't be able to accomplish everything that you want. But bringing people together is the positive thing in my book, and building community. And yeah, everybody's going to have their differences, but they generally agree on a lot of things, and it's the little details and, you know, the little divisive issues that tend to get worked up by newspapers and stuff nationally, just because it gets eyeballs looking at the TV screen and getting angry about something. But most people basically are good and care about their community, and you speak to that and try to foster that, and that's a good thing.
And so you were elected to city council. You didn't have, you had not had any great desire to be a council person, but you were active in your community, which made it easier to win because people knew who you were.
Yeah,
you
right. And then, and we had various issues come up.
How many people on your council in Fairfax?
5.
Only 5?
Yeah, 5.
Ooh, that's a little one.
Well, no, it's like a standard blueprint for any unincorporated city or town, and it's probably the same state to state, but there are various
we had more in
boilerplate.
Yeah. Anyways, yes, carry on.
Okay, but sometimes it's divided up by districts and things like that, and that tends to be with an incorporated. Not by district? It's not by district. It's all at large and nonpartisan, which is good because then you don't have to say what party.
Yeah.
When it came to getting endorsements from the Democrats or the Republicans, they were like, "Well, have you been in our party for?" And I'm like, "Well, actually, no."
No, but they endorsed you
I was
anyways.
in the Green Party for a long time. Yeah.
Did anybody endorse you?
It's interesting. The Democrats said their bylaws said, "Oh, you can't endorse anybody who's not a Democratic Party member." And at that point, I was I wasn't in the Democratic Party, but I had been a Green Party member for a while, and I made a little speech to them, so I'm a Democrat, but I was a Green. They didn't want to. There were certain people that didn't want to vote for anybody who'd ever, gotten out of the fold. And I said, well, I didn't vote for Al Gore because, whatever. That made a difference to them, and that was the truth.
And who was advising you? Did you have some cadre of political advisors telling you to say this or don't say that?
My ally and I split one advisor who was a political, he's somebody who knew how to run a campaign.
Right. When you say you split, did you actually pay them to run a campaign?
Yeah, we split the cost, mainly because her husband at the time she said, I got to hire somebody, otherwise my husband's going to do it, and it would be terrible.
Right.
And so that was more of a personal issue. So I was kind of miffed because we had to come up with $3,000.
$3,000 a piece. Okay, so it ain't cheap.
So it's not cheap, and in fact, he did it for a bargain. It's supposed to be like 15 or 20.
And why do you think he did it for a bargain? Was he local?
Nobody wanted to be, and he's actually on the next town over's council. He tried a number of times, but he finally got in, and he's doing a good job. But he's combative, which is that's not necessarily a good trait. It's good if you're looking for a fight, but a lot of people, they might go to watch a council meeting to watch the fight, but really they'd rather have you get something positive done.
So were you surprised when you actually won the election, or did you figure early on that people were tired of the old guard?
Well, I was hopeful, but I wasn't surprised. We had 7 people running for 3 seats, and one of the 3 seats that was an incumbent. Yeah. Well, more than one. And he was actually a pretty good guy.
So he
and Pam and I were also running, and then there was an incumbent in another seat who was like, it was time for her to go. Because she'd been there a while and she didn't have new ideas, and she was just kind of like, I represent the old guard and we're not going to change anything, by golly. And
sometimes that's good.
But sometimes that's good.
That's the problem, knowing what to change and what not to change.
Well, and just
so you won, and this other woman won too.
Right.
So then there were at least 2 of you. And how long were you on the city council?
11 years.
And you were mayor at one point.
I was mayor a couple of times.
Do you have to be? if you're on? How did you end up being mayor?
There's 5 council people, and one of them acts as mayor.
And how do you choose whose that is?
It's usually whoever is.
It's not chosen by the public.
No, it's chosen by the other council members. So there's a little bit of a back and forth.
Yes.
Thing, and
I don't know if that's the same.
I think people are 3 want somebody and 2 don't, and it gets uncomfortable if the wrong one is nominated and doesn't get the votes.
Because in our town, in Gulfport, you vote for a mayor, and then by district, city council people.
Yeah.
So those things are
In
different.
California, that would be an incorporated town structure, like in San Francisco, there's a mayor, and then there's 15 or something different districts that each have their representative.
And did you, I guess you learned a lot about how politics works, being somebody who's not necessarily interested in being.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't like into climbing to a different office, so I know some people assumed that I was, and then were either disappointed or happy that I wasn't. But I was interested in bringing people together and kind of burying some hatchets that had been wielded for way too long, and getting some green infrastructure. We have like a local community-based community aggregation power generation, for instance, which takes money that people pay on their utility bills and funds solar farms, not hydro so much because we don't have access to that, but various different ways of getting.
So because you were on council, you could get the conversation turned in a sort of direction. Because that's the point. People are going to vote on what's talked about.
Yeah, I sat on the Regional Transportation Authority, for instance, where I could steer money towards alternative transportation. I mean,
because if there's nobody,
is one of the ways people have influence. 42% of local energy use is through transportation, and if everybody's driving the infernal combustion engine around all the time, that's not going to change much. But we got a local train operating. We got which a lot of people don't like, but
Oh, some people don't like it.
Yeah, well,
what's not to like? Don't write it.
Because they don't like it because it's subsidized, right?
Oh.
And we also, I can tell a short story where we had the opportunity as a town there was a piece of land with a gas station on it that couldn't operate without an adjacent piece of land that happened to be owned by the town, which was always used by the existing gas station kind of as a gift. So that was up for sale, and somebody wanted a Chevron chain operator wanted to open a Chevron station there, and it became obvious that to the council that this couldn't happen without this piece of land that was the town's. And lots of people didn't. We have a chain store ordinance, so you can't open a McDonald's.
A chain store ordinance, which means you can't have chain stores within the city limits.
Right,
Okay,
right.
carry
It's just mom and pop stuff, and which you have to do with. It's a convoluted, no formula business thing. So Chevron is a formula business.
Yeah.
And so with that piece of law existing, we could, say, well, you can't open a Chevron there, and especially not with this piece of land that was a town. So we had a chance to buy this piece of land they said, well, we can't open a Chevron, we'll sell it to the town if you want it for dirt cheap. And I was for buying it, but what I was for doing was buying it and operating it maybe through a subcontractor selling gas there, but giving people the option to buy gas at the real cost. Because when you buy a gallon of gas and people complain, oh, it's $3 here in Vermont or $7 in places in California. Well, the real cost of that is actually over $20. And we're all paying that, but we're not paying
it at the pump.
At the pump. We're paying it through our taxes, supporting, military escorts.
Right, I think that's something that people don't actually understand.
Well, they don't know. Yeah.
They don't understand that the price.
But so you could put a sign there explaining that and say, well, you have the option to pay $20 or whatever, pick a number. And the margin in between what you would ordinarily pay, and that goes into local alternative transportation products.
Right, so this was a way you thought that the town could raise some money for local transportation.
Yeah, and it's a gimmick.
And a gimmick. And actually informing people that gas actually costs more than...
Yeah, inform people about what the real deal is.
Yes.
And probably, the Wall Street Journal would call up the mayor.
Yes.
That's one of the jobs of the mayor is to answer the phone and run the meetings and little else. But And
Shall
you
I
tell
refer
the
to you
story.
as
You
Mayor?
tell the story. Yeah. So, but it didn't get that opportunity because I lost the vote.
Well, that's all right.
So, oh well. Now it's a story that is told here
For the
one of
thing.
few times.
Okay, so but do you feel like by running for council that you were able to actually affect change in your town?
Somewhat, yes. Yeah, we have, we've got a number of, the power thing that I talked about started in Fairfax. It's now expanded countywide. Safe Routes to Schools started in Fairfax, then it became a county program, then a California program, then national. Now it's shrunk a bit because it's got some national enemies usually connected with the car industry. But it's still a state program where it basically trains kids safe ways to walk to school, ride their bikes to school, as well as develops funds for infrastructure, for, sidewalks and crosswalks, basically, to make a whole connectivity thing. And that works for kids, but it also works for the adults in the community because everybody can use these sidewalks and bike lanes and stuff.
Well, right, and if you can send your kid off on a bike, you don't have to go with them. That seems to be, the age appropriate.
I got a call from a mom saying, I was trying to get people to walk with their kids to school. And she's like, well, driving my daughter to school is one of the few times we get to hang out together. So I said, well, can you imagine, walking down the sidewalk, you could probably visit too and also meet your
and more time.
daughters,
Spend more
friends,
time,
and their parents. And she goes, well, you got a point. And she became one of the big local proponents of that program.
And now
So
you're
it's
no
good.
longer on city council.
No.
And why not?
After a certain amount of time, you got to get your life back.
And so
And also there's people, they have their own issues.
So-
Things are different. There's, Black Lives Matter, big matter. I'm not saying that Black Lives Matter is not a good thing.
right,
But that was their issue and they, for
And so
me,
they
I mean,
ran. So
I'd done
did you
my
did
bit.
you just step out, or did you run and not make it?
Well, a lot of people were asking me to run. And so I put my name in the hat.
Yes.
And I ran I did a walking campaign,
Yes. So
instead
you
of a
were
running campaign.
quite.
And so I was pretty glad when I didn't get enough votes.
You didn't get enough votes. Okay. Well, that's all right. So for a while, you come up, you're somebody that doesn't know anything, you get enough votes because they didn't like the old folks, then you're in power and you get some things done that you
Yeah, you
feel
have to
important.
appeal to people. You have to have a good message
Something.
that people like what you're saying.
Yeah.
And,
Well, did
and
you-
if they don't like what you're saying, there's a good
They don't
reason
vote
not
for
to
you.
vote for you.
Yeah.
But I would encourage people, if you care about your community, find something that your community cares about and champion that, whether you're running or not, and do that, and that'll help your community. And if if your community needs somebody in that position where it'll affect legislation, I wrote down a list, and it's like 190 different issues, so it's kind of hard to wrap them all up, but there's, cannabis outlets, okay, housing, affordable housing, what else, energy, I talked about, green infrastructure for, alternative transportation.
Are you sure you're not a communist? That sounds like a bunch of commie socialist business.
Yeah, well,
I'm totally teasing.
community and communists have a similar root work, and how you go about that, is it a top-down, like you're gonna do this, that doesn't feel very community oriented. But if you're talking to people and people are saying, yeah, this is what we want, that's community. To me, that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So call it communist if you want, but
I'm not sure it is communist. I'm
I'd
sorry.
say
I'm just being. I'm teasing.
I'm more towards the anarchist end of the.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But,
Well, because you are sort of an unlikely person to run.
Yeah.
And I guess I hope that gives people strength. The idea. I don't know. I don't know how many people think that they would like to run but are afraid to, or I would be terrified that people would be mean to me or say bad things about me.
Well,
there's nothing wrong with me, but if I were to run for office, they'd find something.
well,
yeah,
they
so
do.
you weren't.
They
Yes.
do.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
were you personally attacked?
Yeah.
And how did you deal with that? Because I wouldn't run.
Well, that's an issue, and you kind of have to either have thick skin, which means you're kind of ornery, but
Yeah.
or you can all say, well, you know, this person who shows up every week and complains about one thing or another likes to complain, and it's part of their psychological need. So kind of that's their problem.
Mhm.
You know, and
There's an idea.
if you hold it in your mind like that, then that's okay.
It
And,
is easier.
you know, sometimes it's, I mean, I lost a lot of votes that last time because there's a communication problem in that we talked to a traffic engineer who said, you know, what about restriping this narrow road that people walk on that's 11 feet wide that people barrel through in their cars? It's scary. I mean, it was called Dead Man's Curve. Nobody actually died there, and I called it Dead
But every town's got to have a dead man's curve.
And so we asked the traffic engineer, is there something that could be done here? You know, and he said, well, I've got an idea. It works in Holland. Is erase all the lines so that everybody will slow down because they don't know what's going on.
Oh,
And
that's interesting. Not
Yeah.
put lines, erase them.
right. And so I guess it doesn't cost much money to erase
To
all
erase
the
the
lines. It
lines.
costs a little bit, but it's below the threshold where anybody needs to give their approval. So
The
this
cost was below the threshold.
where
Mhm.
so the council didn't know about it, even the town manager didn't really know about it, but it
Who
was
did
kind
know
of
about it?
quietly,
It was like
the traffic engineer
traffic engineer knew
and,
about it.
and they were like, oh, let's try this experiment and see if
Yeah.
it works.
Yeah.
Okay, well, the experiment didn't work.
Didn't work.
It pissed off about 400 or 500 people, which, you know, when there's
Yeah.
1,200 people voting, that's a big percentage.
Yeah, right.
And or you know, who
Whatever.
knows, 5,400
Yeah,
people
yeah.
voted.
Carry on.
Yeah, in the Obama election. But at any rate, they were like, "Hey, you took away the lines. We're scared that we're going to have a head-on collision." Which is, you know, if I was asked
Right,
about it, I'd
right.
say, you know, that's a reasonable thing to be afraid of. But it's also reasonable for kids to want to be able to ride their bike down the street and not
Yeah.
get run over.
So they erased the things.
They erased the things.
And it
People
didn't
got up
slow
in
people
arms. Yeah, and then we apologized to the people who showed up at the complaint session. You know,
Yeah.
which was about 50,
Yes.
which is, you know, sizable, and you know, apologized
And then you
a number of times.
repainted the
And then we
rest.
repainted the lines.
Yes. And were people happy
and there
then?
was a number of people said, "How dare you erase the lines without asking us permission?"
Mhm.
And I'm like, yeah,
We do all
nobody
sorts
asked,
of things.
nobody asked us either.
Yeah.
So, but you know, people wouldn't believe us, and there's usually somebody who wants to cause division
Right. So
who
they
says,
they had to have known.
"Oh yeah, right." They say they didn't know. Yeah, how could they not know? Well, yeah, because there's a lot of stuff. You know, it's like whack-a-mole when you're on the council. So, so yeah,
So there you go.
that's,
Things
you know,
happen.
it's just the way it turns
Just
out.
way the cookie
And
crumbles.
it's fine. And
Well,
you know, it was my ticket out of there, which is
Was your
good,
ticket
because
out?
now I
Because-
get to spend my time coming here to Vermont instead.
and enjoy, yeah. Well, thank you for having me here in your home in Vermont,
well,
and thank you for getting up and just relating your experience as being sort of a normal guy, wanting,
Yeah,
you know, sort of
And
green things and running for an office. So
yeah.
I
And
really
the things I
appreciate-
care about, and I'd say, look at the camera again, which
yes,
is the
that's
rule you're not supposed
oh,
to.
no,
I don't
no,
know,
we
you guys have
no,
rules
no,
in
we
your show?
look at
Okay,
the
there's
camera.
plenty
We're talking to
people
them.
watching. I'm talking to people.
We're talking to
more
them.
than just you. Well, I'd say if you are interested in your local community, by all means get involved. I mean, sometimes it's just showing up and putting in your 2 cents or paying attention.
Yeah,
to
just going
something
to a meeting. Yeah.
Yeah,
Perfect.
and you know, putting in public comment because it matters, and bringing up stuff in a local council meeting.
Right.
It's
Even
kind of
if
like
you,
a court of law. You bring up the words, say the words in there because it makes a difference.
yeah.
You know, when
So
a judge
even if
goes
you don't
back
want
and-
to run for council, go
Sure.
to a meeting and speak up. All right.
But be
excellent.
careful because you go to enough and you
become-
articulate your thoughts and they say, hey, people will knock on your door and say, you know,
You need to
I
run.
like what you said. Would you run? Here, I'll brought you these papers.
If
signed.
they ask you, say yes.
If
Thank
they
you so
ask
much.
you to say yes.
I really
Yeah,
appreciate
that's
your-
good. Okay,
thank you.
Thank you. And yeah, thanks for running for office.
Yeah, always good. Always good. Now, this is exciting. Here we are on this lovely hill in Vermont for you Florida people. See the lovely leaves we have available to us. for you Vermonters, this is nothing, but I love all the different colors of the leaves. This is really beautiful. So up on this little hill, we have another neighbor, Phil. Neighbor Phil, to the stage, please. Do you have leaves like this at your house, I presume?
I do.
As the crow flies, how far are you from here?
I would say it's less than a quarter mile.
Less than a quarter mile.
Yeah.
And do you have fruit trees on your property?
I do.
And
Just a handful so far.
no, okay. So set this in. You have just recently purchased a piece of this piece of property. Does it have a
Well-
name?
It doesn't.
Okay. Well, it needs one, or no, it
Yeah.
doesn't. I mean, it could have one.
It's so beautiful it defies description.
Well, there you go. So
Yeah.
so how did you end up picking a piece here?
Well, I got it 6 years ago, thereabouts, and it was a cool story. I was visiting a colleague or coworker, and I set it in my mind almost 30 years ago to buy a piece of land in Vermont. I had assumed it would be somewhere in the Northeast Kingdom. I grew up going to visit an aunt there, but in visiting this coworker,
The power of the aunts. The aunts.
yeah. In visiting this coworker, I just thought I'd sniff around this area just to at least get to know other areas of Vermont before pulling the trigger.
Mm.
I looked for a week. This place was the last one I looked at, and it was like falling in love. So,
Okay. And you came here to build an off-grid house.
yeah, it's taken a while to get ready, take this step. I started by building a 98 square foot cabin
Mm-hmm.
and a barn and what I call the orchard shed, even though the orchard's pretty small so far.
Now, was there already a few trees there, or did you have to plant them all?
No, I've just been trying to plant.
Plant them all.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
But I
interesting.
hardly have it. I mean,
No, but they're coming.
yeah.
They're coming.
That's
Well,
the
what's
intention.
what's interesting here on this particular piece of property, there's two apple trees out here. They're really old. They were planted, I don't know how many years ago, but
90 years.
yeah, these funny little red ones, and these they're kind of odd, misshapen, but they're quite tasty. And then when you go into town, it's apple pressing season, and we went to the local apple pressing. If you're a member of my Patreon page, you'll see a little video of that. And they have all these different varieties. This one I think is really amusing, but I had to write them down. Do you happen to know what this one is? You wouldn't, I guess. Not that I'm expecting you to. This is a Molly's apple.
Is
I
that
like the-
heirloom or is that a
I
new
guess
variety?
so. I assume it's an old one, but I don't really know that. This one of them I do know the age of. Let's see, this one is, a Honey Crisp. And this one, I had to write my little notes because I don't remember. Do you have any of these varieties so far that I'm...
No.
No? Okay. This one is a Cortland. Very nice big apple. This one was developed in 1960. It's called a Ginger Gold in Nelson County, Virginia. And it was found as a wild tree near a Golden Delicious. So
I
it's
love
a,
those ones.
you like this brand.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this one is for you. And they're all, we'll send you home with presents. And this one was,
I'll play it right now if you don't
hey,
mind.
oh yes, carry on, eat, enjoy. This one is it's a 20 ouncer. And it was developed in New York in the 1800s. And if you've read Michael Pollan books, you understand that if you want another apple like this one, you cannot take the seed from this apple and plant it. You have to clone the tree from this particular one. That's why when this one was found, it had mated with a Golden Delicious and popped out this one. And then so all the trees that are called Golden Delicious came from a single tree and have been grafted onto rootstock. How did you pick your trees?
Well, I just went to the nursery down the road and got their advice.
That's often a good thing. Go to the
But I was
nursery.
just telling McKee, I have these two pear trees that supposedly are simpatico in terms of pollinating each other. Nothing's happened yet. It's been a few years and I'm starting to wonder.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah,
Wow.
so I need to plant some more.
Plant some more.
My daughter's telling me she's going to come out with some friends from college and help plant some.
Oh, good. Yeah. But that's what get the next generation going. Now, your house is completely off grid.
It
Like
is.
you have no city water or electric or sewer, anything coming to you, and
right.
that's legal in this state.
That's right.
It's not legal where I'm from. Carry on. So How do you get your water?
I don't have any yet.
Oh dear.
I'm a builder, so I'm just focusing on the constructing now, and then the infrastructure will come later.
And will you collect rainwater, or are you going to pump
I think I'll drill a well.
control a well?
Yeah,
And your electricity, how are you going to get electricity here?
that'll be a solar array.
A solar array.
Yep.
And then your sewer system, how are you going to,
Right, that'll just be sort of a leach field type septic system.
which is normal enough.
It is.
As long as you got some water.
And Vermont's really easygoing in terms of building methods, but their septic systems, and rightfully so, that's where they're very particular. In fact, there are no building inspections, but you do need to get your septic inspected.
Oh, so you can build sort of any funky shape or materials, or they don't care if it falls down on your head. There's no building inspection.
That's correct.
That is super interesting. So
Yeah.
that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of times you have to, a set of stairs, each tread has to be exactly the same, this particular height. And so that can be troublesome
Sure.
but you don't have to worry about that.
I don't.
What is your house
I
built
still
out of?
plan on building a regular staircase, though. I don't
Yeah,
want to
well,
change those
No, you don't.
rises and runs too much.
No, because people are actually quite accustomed to them.
That it is.
Now, what is your house built out of?
I'm using ICF, which is insulated concrete forms.
Insulated concrete forms.
Yeah.
Do you make them there, or do you get them?
Nope. They were brought over from New Hampshire, and it's a little difficult to explain, but they perform really well in terms of holding in the heat.
Right, because that's
Holding
important
in the
here.
summer. That it is. And it's very durable. And was an easy way to do the build solo, because standing up stud walls by yourself can be done.
Right.
It's difficult.
Right. So you were, when you were choosing your materials, you were taking into consideration that you would be building it by yourself.
Yeah.
And had you had, if you knew you were going to have a team, might you have chosen a different
Maybe,
material?
but that wasn't the only factor. I also like the performance.
Mm-hmm. And that's a new product?
Newish.
Newish
And
product.
it's come a long way. The company that I bought them from has really devised a lot of clever systems for, say how you can hang your drywall after the fact, or even just the way that these blocks clip together. It's like stacking Legos.
Oh, I like
The
that.
stacking part is quick and easy, but then there's also a lot of reinforcing and stuff that takes a good amount of time.
And so you're going to run your electricity off solar. Now, are you some great solar expert? How are you choosing
By
that?
no means. All electricity still feels like witchcraft to me. So I'm gonna definitely have to get a lot of pointers and hire a professional.
Okay, so you think you might actually hire somebody that has some experience and to give you
Yeah.
some advice?
Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna tackle the plumbing or the electrical solo. Everything else has been pretty much just a one-man mission, although some neighbors have pitched in and helped me when it was crucial. Yeah.
McCall, and then you plan to live here full time, or you're living here now
Yeah.
as you're building?
Yeah, I'm living with my girlfriend down the road, and so.
Love the girlfriend down the road.
Yeah.
I'm sure she's delightful.
She is.
Yes, of
Yeah.
course.
Yep. And so has
Yeah.
been very supportive in
Of
this
course,
journey
yes.
so far of the build. So
Yeah.
yeah, but the idea is to live there.
And so how many years, you bought the land, what you said, 6 years ago?
Yeah,
And then when did you actually start building on it?
in May.
Okay, and do you
Yeah.
have a finish date? Or,
Before I die, that would be great. Yeah.
that is good.
Yeah.
And where were you living before you decided to live in this?
In Massachusetts.
In Massachusetts,
Yep.
and out in the woods there too?
On
Or?
a small island in the Atlantic.
Ooh,
Yeah. But kind of in the woods.
kind of in the
Rural,
woods. Rural.
yeah.
So you like rural
I
works
do
for
like
you.
rural. Yeah.
And so, why did you want to build an off-grid house? Why not just hook right up?
I just came up with this idea when I was still a teenager that I don't want to be a consumer. And I like the idea of growing my own food. And I like the idea of trying to get more contentment from smaller things. This is my goal in life.
Oh, wait, say that again.
Right, how to best explain that.
Get more contentment from smaller things.
Yeah, I mean, as most people's lives are, it's just been really stimulating And I think that what I need to feel properly stimulated is unrealistic. So I have a goal to be able to just spend time in the woods and have my needs met by nature. If that makes
Right.
sense.
So, have you already started a vegetable garden?
No, I mean,
Okay.
I'm
You're still well.
so
That's okay.
far at the beginning.
That's
yeah.
all right. You're at the beginning.
Yep.
But so your goal might be to grow enough food to can it and freeze it and.
That's
or-
the idea.
Yeah. Can you
Yeah.
run a freezer off a solar array?
I think
These
so.
days,
I think a chest freezer for food storage uses remarkably little energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Because you're not opening it that much.
No.
And there's a lot of thermal mass in the
Yes,
freezer
right,
keeping
right,
it cold.
Right.
That's my understanding.
And so you would like to be able to sit on your mountain and feed yourself and electrify things
Yeah.
and carry on.
And meditate.
Would you care to run for, and meditate. Would you care to run for city council?
I don't think that's my path in life.
yeah.
I really want to go from the very bottom up. And I'm appreciative that there are people that are willing to do that part of the work.
Right.
But I
appreciative.
want to build a place where a lot of people are going to want to visit. And that maybe it would be inspiring for them to get a window into that way of living, and maybe in some way that'll help shift things.
It absolutely will.
Yeah,
Now, have you ever had a vegetable garden? Have you
I
ever?
have.
So you can't. You have been able to sort of grow food
Yes.
because it's not as easy. You know, people go off to plant vegetables and then it's a little harder than it. I mean, it's easy enough.
I'm
isn't
no
it?
master, but
No.
I want to strive for that. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
It's
And
not
so-
the most lofty ambition you've ever heard of, but it's just I've always wanted to buy a piece of land in Vermont and grow.
And
my
why
own
Vermont?
food.
Why not Georgia, where it's warmer,
Right.
or North Carolina?
I mean, I'm a New Englander at heart.
Okay, so you were born in
I
this
love
way,
the
or-
climate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Born and raised in Massachusetts. I lived out west for a dozen years, and that was amazing. It's beautiful out there, and the people are great. But I just wanted to come back to New England. I love the seasons, and I love the grit of New Englanders.
Oh, yes. I guess you got to be tough because what do we have? 7 months of winter here.
Right. And people say what they mean what they say.
Well,
It may not
that's-
be hugs and high fives when you first meet them, but in a moment of need, your neighbors come through. You never know who your neighbors are going to be. I fell in love with the piece of land, and then come to find out, I fell into a community of gems.
Well, yeah, there's some magic involved.
This hilltop is really special.
Well, yes, that's
Yeah.
why all the women were here 100 years ago.
That's right. Yeah.
I mean, that's my woman's opinion on why it's so magic.
I think you're spot on there.
Yes, I think so. So, and it's not too late to start? Oh my God, you old man, how come you're starting now?
Right.
My goodness, how old are you?
It took a while. I'm at the ripe age of 44.
44, you should have been doing this from your 20s. How you can't
I know.
possibly get it done now.
I had to raise a daughter in the meantime. It wasn't the time.
But
But
now it
the-
is.
the
And so it's
dream is
never too
being-
late to start.
That's right. The dream is being realized as we speak.
And do you, like you're saying you want people to come to this place and visit it, like you're going to open it to the public, or you're just sort of going to talk to people at the local bar and say, come by for a beer?
Right. I mean, I'm not sure
You don't
yet.
know yet? Okay.
My daughter says that, someday when she's living up here, because I'm pleased to say that she's jazzed about
Yay!
the
Well,
land
isn't
and the
it lovely
area.
that you have a child that will speak to you?
Yeah.
And not only that, but come live with you. Congratulations, you did a great job.
Right. Well, and she knows she'll take the reins someday, and she talks about wanting to make it a place for climate refugees.
Climate refugees,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because there will be some.
Yeah.
Oh, how interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, we're above the high water line here, I think, at least for a little while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Up here in the, I appreciate your just coming and speaking a little bit with me. I hope that this show has inspired someone to build a house late in life or run for city council, even if it isn't. I want to thank you for your time by giving you, this is one of my albums.
All right.
If you happen to still have a CD player, I have
I'm
one
sure I can make that work.
for my previous guests
Yeah,
also,
yeah.
and we'll pass out these fruits, and you certainly take some home with you.
Delicious.
We have plenty of these we picked off the tree, and oh yeah, how was the taste of that one? We'll do
I
it
love a ginger
for
gold.
for all. Yeah, that's the one you like.
Mhm.
For all of you in the live audience, you'll be able to to have a bite of apple. And I want to taste this one for fun. We'll give you a taste. The next show is in 2 weeks. Beck, you want to try that one?
Yes, please.
That was our, that's the mollies. I just love the shape of the mollies.
Mm-hmm.
So the next show will be live from Gulfport again. And we're going to be, is there anything else we need to say to the world before we end this show?
We could high five.
High five?
Yeah.
Yeah. High five. High
All right,
five.
high five.
Yay. All right. Thank you so much. And I'll have you hit the off button.
Hit the off
The
button.
show is now, show 105 is now.
So you don't go out with a song?
No, we're not going out. Well, I guess we could.
Well, I don't get the apple juice in there, man.
Well, okay, we'll do one little quick song. A traditional ender. I took cues from nobody. I put food in my mouth and then talk. Oops. No, but I took cues from Carol Burnett, who would always end the show with the same song. Doesn't have to be a new one. This one is called Bushel Basket. And it's about putting your troubles in a bushel basket, which is holy. In a holy basket. Put your troubles in a holy basket. And then when you get where you're going, all your troubles will have fallen out. So I call it putting your rain in a bushel basket. Not your brain, but the rain, like your troubles. That's what the song is about. Jump freight trains when they roll by, and I don't get the blues, and I'll tell you why. I go downtown when I want to smoke, and I'm treating life like a joke. But I won't go sinning in my neighbor's yard, 'cause he's been working mighty hard. I go downtown, but I don't wear shoes, and oh no, I don't sing the blues. Carry my rain in a bushel basket, and carry the sunshine too. Carry my rain in a bushel basket, and I let the sun shine through. Carry my rain in a bushel basket, carry my rain in a bushel basket, carry my rain in a bushel basket, let the sun shine through. And I won't get cross if you smile at me, and I'll throw my troubles out to sea. I don't wear black or need a heart attack, 'cause we could be happy. How about that? Don't think much about what could go wrong, and I don't want to sing about it in a song. But I'll look at you and shake my head, 'cause Lord knows some people, they'd be better off dead. Carry my rain in a bushel basket, carry the sunshine too. Carry my rain in a bushel basket, let the sun shine through. Carry my rain in a bushel basket, carry my rain in a bushel basket, carry my rain in a bushel basket, let the sun shine through. And I don't see Saturn when I look at the stars, but I know it's out there and so's Mars. I don't think much about the evening news, and no, I'm not gonna sing the blues. And I don't like ham, but I do like toast, and I certainly don't care who you hate the most. And I don't care how it's always been done. You could give in but still have some. Carry my rain in a bushel basket, and carry the sunshine too. Carry my rain in a bushel basket, and let the sun shine through. Carry my rain in a bushel basket, carry my rain in a bushel basket, carry my rain in a bushel basket, let the sun shine through. You gotta let your sun shine through.